Match day 2, and already Manchester United have ruined everything. Shameful, shambolic, and surely illegal treatment of season ticket holders dominated the summer, and anything less than a convincing win this weekend will surely mean Michael Carrick's honeymoon period is over before Andy Burnham's. Fortunately for you, eternal optimist Pete Molyneux's here, and we're joined by a presumably very upbeat Ipswich fan, Alistair Ross. Before I sit back and let you two go on about Arnold Muren for 20 minutes, Hull were not the only promoted side to enjoy the opening weekend, Alistair.
No, it was a really good start. I mean, I thought we'd get something out of the game. I was a bit disappointed in Sunderland, really. I thought they were pretty just long ball, really, or just relying on, their superstar in midfield to deliver a long pass. I probably should have won easier in the second half in the end, and got the last minute goal to get the points we probably deserved for showing more willingness to try and get the 3 points. Well, I think Sunderland seemed happy to settle for a point.
How do you feel about being back generally? 'Cause your first away game at Old Trafford allows you to get back to Ipswich train station at midnight on Monday morning if all 4 legs of the journey go your way.
No, to be thought, probably because I lived through the days of Robson and so on, I'm not a great fan of the Premier League. 2 years ago, it was a really poor season. It was a poor season for us with only 4 wins. But we started well, but everyone was praising us. We were getting just beaten or getting a point, but we just didn't get the win till we got the away win at Spurs. But I found the football overall quite disappointing. For instance, Liverpool matched them first half. They woke up for 10 minutes in the second half, destroyed us and went back to sleep again. And there was games like that where the bigger team, other than really, unfortunately, you might not like me to say it, but when Man City came, who actually went at us and destroyed us, other teams just seemed happy to get the 1 or 2 ahead and then just see the game out. And so, excitement-wise, I was disappointed in the standard of football. And I think I can understand why, but it just seemed teams were saving themselves for a European game or for a bigger opponent, and we didn't really see, some really fascinating games. So I think we're maybe more of a match this year. McKenna, everyone loved him. He was brilliant, but maybe set in his ways slightly, stuck to his principles. And I think Gary O'Neill is more of a survivor and willing to change the team round. And we've probably copied Sunderland slightly, and we've spent more this time and probably on more proven players. So I think we've got a chance, but I'm not a great fan of the Premier League for various reasons. VAR, prices, playing every Sunday or Monday or Thursday morning or whatever you want to play. It's not great for the supporters. It's certainly not 3 o'clock Saturday.
So what, to the extent that you would rather go back down or not? Is that pushing it?
I mean, that's the difficult. For me, selfishly, if we were sat in the top 6 in the Championship forever and it's exciting, it would be okay, but it can't stay like that. And I understand whether you want to be a yo-yo club and you have 2 years up and 2 years down, it's difficult. And you look at clubs like Blackburn and Sheffield United, you could easily go down and down. Yeah, it's difficult. You want to see the best players in the world, at Portman Road. And that's being in the Premier League. But you want to be competitive. So I suppose the hope is you become a Brighton or Brentford. And then I think, you've had it, so you've done it. But I would just like clubs like ours to take cups seriously. So you don't get players retiring as multi-millionaires without 1 trophy. You want to actually win something. And you look at, for all what Everton done, and Wigan went and won the FA Cup. You take the cup seriously and win a trophy.
That's just that big disconnect, isn't it, between the people who run Premier League football clubs and supporters, and what supporters care about, or at least match-going supporters.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it just seems stupid as well, though, because if it's all about money, the longer you get in a cup, it's more full houses, big payday at Wembley, and then you're in Europe. I do sometimes not sure they get it fully right, even under people like Mick McCarthy, we'd throw a cup game, end up drawing it and having to go away to Barrow in a replay. You just think, well, that hasn't helped you at all, is it? You played 2 games
I was
on
at
a
that.
900-mile round trip. So why didn't you just try and win the game in the first place? Yeah, it just seems teams, unless, until they get to the quarterfinal, most teams don't take it seriously.
You surely feel the same way, Pete.
And you want to win a trophy, don't you?
I think Alistair's spot on. As much as I love the Premier League, some of the shine, bit by bit, is coming off it. And as you said, Vance, I'm more cup half full than empty. But there's just so many little tweaks now, like Alistair said, with the kickoff times, days and times. And just a whole host of other things that change. What was all that about drawing half of the League Cup last night for the teams in Europe, then doing the other half of the draw afterwards? I understand why they said they were doing it, but it just seems nonsensical. But having said that, it's still a sexy beast for me, the Premier League, with Manchester United. I think you're spot on as well about teams that might not have a realistic chance of winning the Premier League or getting the top four, should go for one of the cups, Alistair. I'm surprised it took Newcastle so long, 50 odd years. They were playing the reserve team, right through the 20 noughts and the 20 teens. Aston Villa, it's taken them ages to win a cup. Their fans would love a day out at Wembley. So, it just seemed to be...
they loved the day out in Trafalgar Square first, Pete. But then they were probably scarred, weren't they, from getting beaten in cup finals so often. Oh, Alistair, right. So Ashley Young spent last season, right, at Portman Road before finally retiring. I think, Pete, he made his United debut alongside Stuart Pearson. And Tuanzebe was there, right? Axel Tuanzebe, we once had really high hopes for him. And by all accounts, is a really, really good lad. And I don't...
He played some good games for us, but there was always there's a mistake in him, and you didn't get the best out of him every week. And I think he was quite fortunate to go to Burnley afterwards, because I'm not sure he's Premier League class, but he's what we needed. And obviously McKenna knew him from United and brought him in. But yeah, he wasn't great for us really. He did all right, and he was an upgrade on what we had at right back. But I think I always worry about these players who, they get relegated in one club and join the next club that's coming up, and you just wonder if they're just going to be relegated, which did happen with him, and then you're relegated again, and then you're looking for another club. But then again, he ended up having quite a good World Cup, actually. And is he still at Burnley this year? But he had quite a good World Cup. So, and I think also he may have wanted to go back up north, so Burnley was probably an attraction for him.
I think he grew up in Rochdale, didn't he? You have spent money though this time, right? So that's a difference. Who will be the hardest for United to scout? Because that'll be like the new signings, right? Who's likely to stand out from what you've seen so far, which admittedly can't have been a lot.
And Cisco, who actually we had on loan from Brighton 2 years ago and played and obviously they then sold him to Strasbourg. Chelsea obviously had an eye on him to bring him to Chelsea, but he came out of Strasbourg to Ipswich. He was good for us when he was on loan, but got injured. I think he won goal of the month and a goal against Everton. I think he won goal of the month the season before while he's playing for Brighton. He does look and had a good World Cup for Paraguay. He's a real class player who can do something really special. And so he's not an unknown to most clubs. Obviously, he was at Brighton as well as Ipswich. So he really is a really good player. Emerson, the centre forward, the Brazilian, we got from France, very raw. Wasn't expecting much of him, but on Saturday he was excellent against Sunderland. And it'd be interesting that supposedly today Tammy Abraham might be coming to Ipswich on loan, so I'm sure he'll be on the bench at least and possibly could start, but I would have thought he'll start Emerson. So, and Cisco's the one to watch. I think with Nunes next to him, who we got for Norwich last year, who's also scored from the halfway line on Tuesday. And the other player for workload, and I think, I'm trying to not generalise, but you've had a few in United's team who always sort of go under the radar a bit, who just work, Valencia and others. It's the Japanese lad we got from Celtic. His engine is, he's on the left, giving the fullback loads of cover as a left winger type. The next minute he's tackling on the far right, Maeda, and then he looks a good player. But I think Cisco is the one you've got to watch, because some of your defenders could get turned quite easily by him, and he'll try the elaborate goal. He'll try something. He's not worried about shooting from anywhere.
So,
For
do
all
you
that,
expect
then,
Ipswich to come
what-
at us then, Alistair? Are you expecting them to come out and try and play attacking football themselves, Ipswich?
I think I'm not sure. I think O'Neill's a survivor, and I think he'd have worked out what he was going to do. I don't think it's helped us you getting beat at Hull, really. I think if you'd scraped a 1-0 win at Hull, but I'm guessing it hasn't sort of covered up. The home support's not going to be happy, as you mentioned, Vance, at the start. A defeat at Hull isn't great. They are the favourites to go down. They haven't brought many players in. And Ollie McBurney's turning you around, a player who, has struggled at the top in the past. I'm not sure it's helped us much, Ipswich, because I'm sure Carrick's had to kick a few players out the proverbials during this week, and they need to sort it out quickly, because I'm sure, as you said, 2 defeats, one at home and one away to 2 relegated clubs, 2 just recently promoted clubs, they're in big trouble. And so I think we're better off attacking now. I don't think our defence is our strongest thing. We need to. They're fairly. I mean, Diop's all right. We've got from Fulham, Young Greaves. They're okay, but I'm not sure defensively we can just sit and park the bus.
Okay.
So I think we will have a go at you.
I'm just trying to think how he set up for Wolves, didn't he? And he got a decent result on the opening day about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, for all that though, the like slagging the Premier League and stuff, the money that it brings, especially if you can stay in it, it's helping to build infrastructure, right? You just got a new training ground out of it, and ultimately, surely you want to see Ipswich back in Europe, because that's what at least fans of a certain age associate them with.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate. I think we've played 50-odd games in Europe, which isn't much now when you talk about all the group stage of the Champions League. But previously, it was probably about the 3rd highest, up to this group football coming in. It was about the 3rd highest in the country. And we're the only club who's played more than 4 games in Europe, who's never lost at home. So the only British club. So, it is a good track record in Europe. And we obviously got in when Burley got us in the Premier for those 2 years when we come 5th. We got into Europe again and didn't lose at home. Yeah, and the money will help. And the new training ground is fantastic. My other gripe about the Premier, and you can't really accuse United of this, though they've got this new idea, which is the lack of young. We haven't hung ourselves like West Ham. You've got to have all youth players, but we've always produced quite good young players. From Kieran Dyer was probably on the lot, Richard Wright, but previously John Walk, George Burley,
Terry Butcher,
Kevin Beattie, Terry Butcher, Russell Osman. We produce a lot of quality players, and we've got some coming through for the youths, but I just see it buy foreign because they're cheaper. You get more money's worth maybe, and you worry, and you see the Chelsea youth team. They won the Youth Cup so many years, and then hardly any of them get through. And then my other worry, though, even if you do get good players, is unfortunately, Manchester United are one of the clubs doing it as well. But Man City, we just lost a 15-year-old to Newcastle. You're going to get $1 million compensation, but it's criminal, really, that players, these kids are being picked up, and I don't think anyone really wants to look into it too much because the money involved with parents and other slightly shady deals is quite unbelievable. But you produce these players from the age of 9 upwards, and then at 15 suddenly you can lose them. And obviously you picked up a couple yourself from Arsenal quite recently, haven't you? Youth players, and then obviously there are young players coming through. Dowman at Arsenal, I saw him play last year against our under-21s. He does look something special, and obviously. You've got anyone who ever played for Manchester United's son in your reserve team, haven't you?
There's another, Fletchers.
The Fletchers, the Rooneys, Carrick's own, isn't it? So, you've got that. We've got a few at Ipswich as well, ex-players' sons or grandsons. They do seem to get in the system early. But, the money is good. It's just, if the money's that good and the TV money's that good, we don't need to be charging people loads of money to come through the turnstile, though, do we?
You'd think that equation would have been met.
Unfortunately, the away prices are too cheap, probably, and so people just, buy tickets, and if they don't use it, it doesn't matter. And I'm sure United will have it even worse than us. Trying to get an away ticket is really hard. A home ticket, obviously, if you got a season ticket, you're okay. But yeah, if it's the TV money that's paying, why charge a fortune for season tickets?
Because the same reason that I had to look into how long it would take you to get back to Ipswich on Monday night, but the Premier League wouldn't have because they don't care. Well, Pete, I'm including you in the men of a certain age, people of a certain age follow. You first went to Ipswich about for like more than 50 years ago.
Just doing the maths. Yeah, more than 50. Good Lord. Sounds like somebody else I'm talking about. FA Cup, third round, 1970. I think Ipswich had just come back out the spell, out the top flight. And I missed the first game. I was too young to go, the one at 68, 69. But we got drawn with each other. And Ipswich is as far now as it was then, but it just seemed a lot further then. I'm sure we left at 12 midnight from Salford on the coach to get to Ipswich for the FA Cup match. It was 3 o'clock. Strangely, at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. The funny thing was, though, when we used to play at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, United was one of the easiest games to get to because we obviously, in them days, had the Harwich boat train, and it left Ipswich at, I think, 8:30 in the morning. You were at Nottingham for 10:30, and you were in Manchester for about 12:15. You have a couple of beers, get to either City or United, and then you'd have to come back via Euston. But you got one way there, so it wasn't actually that bad. Though obviously having to share the train back with the Cockney Reds was not always the most entertaining way to, because it used to be quite full in them days, back to London. But yeah, against United, in them days with the boat train, it wasn't that difficult. So it was all right. But I remember them early 70s, I think Robson nearly got the sack a couple of times. I think once was when George Best destroyed us in, I think it might have been a League Cup game, and people wanted Robson's head, but the board stuck with him. And then we had, a few good games. We had quite a few wins at Old Trafford. I think George Burley made his debut marking George Best. And then obviously people go on about the 9-0 with Andy Cole, but obviously we had the 6-0 before it at Ipswich. 79-80, which was Robson's sort of third great team, the one that went on the following year to almost win the treble, but only ended up winning the UEFA Cup in the end. The thing about that 6, unlike the 9-0, we were bottom of the league and you were top. The 6-0 one, I think at that stage, it was March, you were second and we were third. We won 6-0, missed 2 penalties, and Gary Bailey, the goalkeeper, I think was man of the match, and obviously he was born in Ipswich as well, so because his dad played for us. So it was a great game. John Walt was injured, so our normal penalty taker missed the game, so it could have been a lot worse for United that day, but it was one of those days where Mariner got a hat-trick, the late Paul Mariner, who was obviously a great centre-forward who went on to play for England. And obviously Arnold Muren setting them up, who obviously eventually would end up at Old Trafford winning an FA Cup winners' medal. And then even after that, going on to play for Ajax and winning a European Championship medal for the Netherlands. So I don't know. To me, I don't think I've ever seen a better passer of the ball than Arnold Muren. With his left foot, it really was a wand.
Tommy Dock used to have a phrase about Gordon Hill, and I think it applied to Arnie Muren as well. He could open a can of beans with his left foot.
Yeah. He was a class player. I mean, he didn't get involved in tackling or anything like that, but he could pass. I mean, he'd be worth the money now when you look at players like, some of those who can pass now, the lad at Sunderland, for instance, the one that he could sit back on the edge of the pen area and just pin passes out. He was that good.
Yeah. It's funny.
I mean, Paul's goal was probably closest to it.
You set the 6-0 up from your point of view that you were chasing in third place. Ipswich were chasing United. Where I was standing on the terraces at Portman Road that day, we'd waited 13 years for United to win the league again. We'd have to wait another 13 before it actually happened. But Liverpool and United were joint level on about 40 points, I think, just the run-ins to go. I seem to remember Liverpool were playing Everton, and I thought that's a tricky fixture for them at Goodison. And our team had been playing okay. And I just looked at the lovely lush green pitch, at Portman Road, and I thought, we'll turn it on today. Of course, United was 3-0 down after 27 minutes. I think in the end, Bailey saved 3 penalties, didn't he? Because one had to be retaken.
Yeah, he saved one twice. Yeah, he saved
That's
one
right.
twice. Yeah, one penalty twice.
And if you ever get a chance to look at the a clip on YouTube, and I try and avoid it, United's defence was just absolutely dreadful. It was amateurish, which was strange for Dave Sexton. He used to play with a strong defence. His weakness was attacking teams. I was scarred for a while after that, Alistair, because I'd had such high hopes and they were so dashed. And the thing that Dave Sexton did in the following game, we played at Brighton, first time they'd been up for a while, and he played 10 defenders and a goalie, and we drew 0-0. And that was his way of putting things right, go ultra defend. You took us apart that day.
Yeah.
You'll have
I think
you'll have to go through the
was...
9-0 now, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I'll try and forget that. I think the United team, they're all well-known players. I think really probably Sloan is the only United player that, and the sub, I think, was Yankovic, but it's only really Sloan out of the starting 11 who wasn't, an international really. Bailey wasn't, but, Buchan and McQueen and the others. They were a team of, big players, but they got turned over that day. And I think obviously the following year it proved at Ipswich, where it was Ipswich and Villa and Liverpool the following year.
Yeah, you were coming through well.
That was a good team. Though we went away the following Saturday after that, a bit too cocky. We beat Everton 4-0, I think, away. And then the following week after that, we went and lost to Everton again in the cup quarter-final when, we'd hammered them 4-0 a couple of weeks earlier. So, that team, the 79-80 team was really the build-up to the team the following year, which would obviously have a great season.
Yeah, you were coming good that day.
Well, Alan Brazil was playing for us as well that day, who obviously ended up at Old Trafford as well, but maybe not as didn't do as well as Muren.
No. Alan Brazil's the inspiration for Pete's haircut.
Yeah. and I think my friend went with Alan Brazil to a game at Old Trafford, and he could drive it in quite a short time. So he's done well out of radio and that since, though, hasn't he?
Sure.
Pete's haircut.
It was just going back even further than you and me, Alistair. There is another connection between Ipswich and United. Before Matt Busby was manager, it was Scott Duncan. And then after the war, Busby came in and Scott Duncan went to Ipswich, I think, because he went to live down there. And he was your manager till the mid-50s, I think, wasn't he?
Scott Duncan. I mean, we talk about money in football, and obviously the big clubs had the money. But interestingly, Scott Duncan was poached. I think he was secretary manager at Man United. Our rich owner, one of the Cobbalds at the time, the brewery owner, he persuaded Duncan to leave United to come to Ipswich on double his wages, and we were a non-league team. And that's where the money was. So he arrived at Ipswich with the main aim of just getting us up through his contacts, through the re-election process, which he did. And then he won the third division and sort of did a bit, but sort of got to a point of not going much further and handed over to a certain Alf Ramsey. Stayed on for a couple of years as secretary, but then Alf took over both jobs. Yeah. And obviously would go on to win the league with Ipswich on their first attempt, and then obviously England, the World Cup. But yeah, Scott Duncan was the United manager, and I think the last time he went to United was with Ipswich. He wasn't manager then, he was secretary, but he went, and it was the last home game before the Munich air crash where they beat Ipswich in the FA Cup. Yeah. And I think the train for Manchester that day left Ipswich at midnight, the special, to get to Old Trafford, where obviously it was the last home game before the air crash. So it's, for a number of players, the last time they played at Old Trafford. So that was just the week before, and obviously you then went on and carried on and had a good cup run that season.
Yeah, that's right. Just one other thing that a memory of, I shared with you the trauma of the 6-0. But when I was that young lad in 1970, and what would I be then, about 16, it was great travelling with the Red Army, and it just coming into its own start of the 70s, and it just got more fun, more exciting, and more violent. And not that that was the excitement; it just got that way. But it was a real adventure the whole weekend, especially away games. And the Red Army could hold its own against any firm. I don't glorify that in any way, but it's true. But at Ipswich, it was great. It was like a day off from being in the Red Army, because there were a higher proportion of girls in the Ipswich crowd than there was anywhere else, I'm sure. And I'm only going by what my eyes saw. And the other lads said this. I was talking about girls between 18 and 25. But a lot of the rough, tough Stretford enders ended up trying to chat up the Ipswich girls, I seem to recall.
Yeah, I think
Can you verify this, Alistair?
we had more of we had more of a family support probably than other clubs, but we also had probably one of the largest sort of black supports, from within the urban area of Ipswich. But interestingly, I think 81 we went to Middlesbrough. If we'd won, would have been top with one game left against Villa. I think we took 50 away fans. It's just amazing where we sold out the tickets for Old Trafford in 10 minutes the other day. It's the away support now is unbelievable, but I think it was so difficult to get from anywhere from Ipswich to anywhere that people didn't, and obviously people worked as well. And there isn't, other than Norwich or West Ham, there are no close games to us, and even that they're over an hour. So our away support was, I used to travel quite a lot in the 80s and would be the best team, second best team in the country, but would be lucky to have 50 away fans. It was, but then we'd take 15,000 to Europe, in the against Cologne the following week. But people worked and there was not much unemployment, and so away support was really poor at Ipswich. But now obviously people's work shifts changed, and every game's a sellout for away fans.
If you've just joined us, we're dealing with history, fan culture, transport. We should be on to politics by about Tuesday night. And we're doing all of this for the love of it right now. We keep growing. If you want to sponsor us, get in touch. Same with any correspondence. creamofmanchester1878@gmail.com. If words are your thing, we're always looking to add to our stable of Substack writers too. We have massively overplayed, I think, in this episode, the 6-0, because that wasn't even at Old Trafford, and we'll probably go on about it again in the reverse fixture. We barely mentioned the 9-0. A great day for teenage me, by the way, in the scoreboard in K-Stand in the second half. Finish off. Tractor Boys. I thought that this had been around for a long time, even though I can't remember it as a kid. And I was reading up about this. Is this correct, that this Tractor Boys moniker is only 20-odd years old, and it started as a taunt from Leeds fans, or is that just internet slop?
I think it's quite recent. The support, we've always got this. We're lucky. There's only probably us and Norwich. We are what called one county team, so we've got the whole county. And if you live the other side of Suffolk, 10 miles from Cambridge, you support Ipswich. If you live in Lowestoft, 20 miles from Norwich, you support Ipswich, even though it's 40 miles. So, and it obviously goes into Essex as well. We have the support. So we have got quite a rural support, and people come from them towns, the small towns, Stowmarket, Bury, to support Ipswich. But most of our support is from an urban Ipswich area. And we didn't people used to take the mickey out of our accent, your farmer boys, and most of the blokes I was brought up with, we've never seen a field in our life. You worked at Ipswich Docks or Felixstowe Docks, or you worked in the factories. We didn't see ourselves as, or London Overspill, certainly didn't see ourselves as rural. So the tractor, the Suffolk Punch came on the badge, I think about 1972, 73, the horse. The Tractor Boys is only probably for maybe 25 years old. It was done as a Mickey take, I think, by some away fans, and then I think when we beat them, whatever, it was like 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, and it's continued. And when Fanidi George arrived, I remember they had a song with him driving a tractor, and he sat on a tractor after a goal celebration. Yeah, it is quite recent, and I think it's been taken on by the club and the fans. We never really had a nickname before, Town or Blues. So I think they were quite happy to have a nickname. But it's certainly the rural bit was played down by Ipswich fans in the 70s and 80s, who wouldn't have been happy to have any association with farming at all. So
what about the old farm derby then? Is
recent.
that older? The old farm derby? Is that a recent one?
The old farm derby. I think everyone tries to have old something derby, don't they? I think my favourite is the Eastbourne. I think there's 3 clubs in Eastbourne. I think it's the El Geriatrico, I think, which is my favourite. But yeah, I mean, it is a real, players have played at United and Liverpool and have come to Ipswich. I think they're quite shocked at first how quite nasty the derby is. It is a county against county. It's 40 odd miles apart. You don't work with anyone as a Norwich fan. It's not like United or Everton or Liverpool. You're not working with someone who supports them unless you live on the border area. But it really is quite nasty. And again, I'm not a fan of the derby match. It's one of those ones which are over policed. You're glad when it's over. I think I'm glad we've won both last season. We got that off our back. We think we are the bigger club. We've won more, we've done more, but they had the advantage of TV when they had their couple of seasons of good. So, they celebrate winning in Bayern Munich away because it was on TV, where we've won a European trophy. But yeah, Norwich, I mean, to be fair, it's been quite a well-run club over the years and they've had their times in the Premier, a bit unlucky because they were there at a time when English clubs were banned, obviously because of Heysel, when they were in a top 5 club for a while. But the derby is quite a nasty derby for one that's 46 miles I think apart. But it's certainly, I think a lot of players who come from places like Tottenham and Arsenal or the northern clubs or Newcastle Sunderland are quite surprised on how seriously it's taken.
For all you painting it like grime music was invented in Ipswich and Al Capone used to hang out there, though, is this true about the livestock in the stand? That when a gate blew off I'm reading this, when a gale blew the roof off the main stand in 1911, the groundsman converted the wreckage into a livestock pens, raising sheep, goats and chickens on site to raise club funds. Is this true?
It probably is true because obviously the cattle market, which is now the big car park next to the ground, was the cattle market next to it. So I can see that being true. I mean, the ground was very basic up to when we went pro in 1936, and even then it was fairly basic till sort of mid-50s, and Scott Duncan, who we mentioned earlier, was there. And I think even when we won the league, they did change at a small cricket pavilion at the back of the stand, under Alf Ramsey. It was like a changing room you'd see in. You probably wouldn't even see one that poor in the Manchester League now. Like, it'd have to be, some Sunday morning football league. It was only really in the sort of 60s that the ground got anywhere near where, it is now. But yeah, that is quite believable, and it's probably true. Though maybe due to that, the pitch was always seen as one of the best pitches in the country up to sort of the 80s when they built one of the stands and the sun disappeared. So people did like coming here because you could play football on what was a pretty good surface in the days of when places like Derby were just mud baths.
You probably had natural fertiliser, didn't you? Thank you both very much, gents. I am off to raise livestock by the freight terminal. Call in and feed the heifers before the game, not after though, for God's sake. It's a school night, and I'm hoping to catch the end of Country File. Mind the cattle grids.